This is still the part of the coordination, right? We are doing coordination, and coordination is divided into 3 or 4 parts. Like one is the introduction of the coordination, in which we have to study about the neurons, and one is the sense organ, and there is one sense organ that is eye into your syllabus, and one is about the hormones, and another one is about the homeostasis. Right after excretion, we have completed the homeostasis, and now we are going to study about the sense organ, that is eye. So I will try to complete this by today. But if we will not be able to complete this today, फिर हम इसको next class में जो है continue कर लेंगे. ठीक है. I just okay बेटा, eye जो है that is the eye is the sense organ that is responsible for sensing the stimulus of light, right? It senses the stimulus of light, and it is responsible for producing the image and helps us in vision or seeing the things. It has external structure, and if we see the external structure, you can see here, this diagram is showing the external structure of eye. These are the eyelashes, and I discussed this in the class when you all were gone for the rehearsal of the tableau. Eyelashes are responsible for trapping the dust particles, and yes, and it's all these, yes, they just trap the dust particles that prevent our eyes from the dust particles. This white part is known as the sclera. This white of the eyeball is known as the sclera, and this hole inside the lens, which you see, is the pupil. External structure, okay. Eyelids, what is the function of the eyelids? Eyelids actually spread the tears into our eyes, and they lubricate the eyes and reduce the friction. This is the one function of the eyelid. And the second function is eyelid actually, they also prevent they also actually control the amount of light which is entering into our eyes, and eyelids also prevent our eyes from the dust particles. So eyelids, this is the upper eyelid, this one, this is the upper eyelid, this is the lower eyelid, and this third one here, this one swollen part, that is known as the third eyelid. This is the upper eyelid, lower eyelid, and sometimes this third part, which is on the inner side of the nose or inner corner of the eye, which is closer to the nose, that is also considered as an eyelid. So there are 3 eyelids, and the function of the eyelid is to spread or wipe the tears onto the eyes, so that friction should be reduced, and they can reduce the friction, and they also lubricate the eyes or prevent the eyes from being drying up. Then they also prevent the dust particles from entering into the eyes, and the third function is they also control the amount of light which is entering into the eyes, which can damage the photosensitive cells of our eyes. Right? These are the 3 functions of the eyelid. This is the white part, this is the pupil, which we will discuss in detail in its internal structure. You can see at the upper outer corner, this is the outer corner and this is the inner corner. Outer corner of the eye, there is a gland present which is known as the lacrimal gland, and it's also known as the tear gland. At outer corner, there is a gland which is the lacrimal gland or tear gland. It produces actually tears. They produce tears, and tears lubricate the eyes and prevent the eyes from dehydration. These eyelids, upper and lower eyelids, which spread the tears onto our eye, they are actually preventing our eyes from dehydration, and that is possible only because of the tears. Tears, they hydrate the eye, water our eye, or they prevent our eye from dehydration, or you can also say they reduce the friction, which helps in the easy movement of these eyelids, right? And yes, these are the eyelashes. We are done. And on inner corner of the eye, this tube is known as the nasolacrimal duct. This tube, This is lacrimal, or it's also known as the nasolacrimal duct. It is the nasolacrimal duct. I have told you that duct word is used for the tube. So you can see it's also the tubular structure which drain the extra tears, fluid or dust particles which actually enter into our eyes, into the nose. राइट यहाँ से बेटा जो डस्ट पार्टिकल्स राइट डस्ट पार्टिकल्स एक्स्ट्रा टीयर है या कोई भी हमारी आईज में एंटर होती है चीज तो वो कहाँ पर जाती है फ्रॉम वेयर इट इज ड्रेन्ड आउट दैट एंटर्स इनटू दिस ट्यूब देन दैट इज रिमूव्ड फ्रॉम आवर नोस्ट्रिल्स नाक में चली जाती है और वहां से जो है इट इज रिमूव्ड समटाइम्स यू माइट हैव नोटिस्ड जब हम बेटा वी आर क्राइंग ठीक है तो टीयर्स प्रोड्यूस होते हैं और हमारे जो है जो लिक्विड है ऑफ द या ये टीयर्स होते हैं दे ऑल्सो स्टार्ट एक्सक्रीटिंग फ्रॉम आवर नोस्ट्रल्स ठीक है नोस्ट्रल से भी हमारी रनिंग नोज आपकी स्टार्ट हो जाती है दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ these tears because these tears are actually being drained into this nasolacrimal duct और ये nasolacrimal duct जो है that is continuous into the nose ठीक है into the nose or nostril ठीक है this is the external structure अच्छा उसके अलावा बेटा जो आई है eye overall this eye is covered by a transparent layer which is known as the conjunctiva and wherever you will see that something is transparent into the eyes it means that they are transmitting the light because the function of the eye is to form image and that is only possible in the presence of the light so conjunctiva is the overall layer which is present onto the eye and that is transparent which is transmitting the light. Okay, this is the external structure. Now we are going to see the internal structure. But before internal structure, let's see. This is overall the eye, right? And this overall eye is located into the hollow part of our skull. And that hollow part is known as the socket. This overall eye is located into the socket, which is the bony part of our skull. This is known as the socket. You may write it down somewhere. It is known as the socket. This is the bony hollow part. Socket is the hollow part of skull into which this eye is. Hollow part of the skull into which this eye is located. And this eye is overall this eye is attached to this socket with the help of some of the muscles and these muscles are known as the rectus muscles right there are rectus muscles present here we can draw in this way these are the rectus muscles and two rectus muscles are present on these two opposite sides of the eye and these rectus muscle attach the eye to the eyeball, attach the eye to the socket of the skull, and these rectus muscles allow some degree of movement of the eye. Means our eye can be rotated little bit towards right and it can be rotated a little bit towards left, but it cannot be rotated at 360 degrees centigrade. Right? It cannot be completely rotated back. It can be rotated to some degree and that is because of these rectus muscles which are attaching our eyeball to the socket of the skull. Right? Because of this we can little bit move our eyes but not completely move our eyes. Okay, this was about the external structure. Now we are going to see the internal structure of the eye. Inside the eye, this eye is made up of 3 layers, right? Eye is made up of 3 layers. The outer one is the sclera, which is this outer one, which is the in the brown color here in this diagram. This is the sclera. This sclera is basically the whitish and this has the fibrous tissues into it. This is tough and it overall protects the eye. This is the outermost of the outermost layer of the eye. At front, this sclera forms the transparent layer which is known as the cornea. This, which one is shown blue here, that is the cornea. This is formed from the sclera at the front. It forms cornea. This is cornea, and first is the sclera, which is fibrous, tough, hard, and it protects the eye. Inner to the sclera is the second layer, which is shown black here. Here you can see the black layer. I hope so it will be clear, but it is, I think, visible. This black one is known as the choroid. Choroid has the blood vessels into it, and these blood vessels nourish the eye. They provide nutrients to the eyes, and they also provide oxygen to the eyes, because eyes have cells which are living cells, and those living cells need energy for active transport or for different purposes. So they need oxygen, and that oxygen and nutrients are provided by the blood vessels which are present into this choroid. And this choroid layer is actually darkish in color or reddish in color because of the presence of the blood vessels. And yes, okay, and it can also be pigmented because of the presence of different colors. This choroid layer at the front bends and it forms the iris. This part, okay, this choroid, it is bending at the front here, you can see, and it is forming the iris. This is known as, the bent part is known as the iris. It is formed from the second layer, which is the choroid. This iris is actually forming a hole in the center of the eye, and this hole is known as the pupil. Sometimes if you see your eye in the mirror, you will see that there is a hole in the center of your lens. ठीक है, लेंस के सेंटर में हमें होल नजर आता है. If you see your eye in sunlight in mirror, you will see there is a hole. That is pupil. What is the function of the pupil? This pupil allows light to pass through it, and it also helps in focusing the light onto the lens and then helps in forming the image. Okay, first light will pass from the cornea, and then it will pass from the pupil, and then it will pass from the lens. Okay, before iris, this cornea bends and it forms the ciliary body. This red swollen part is indicating the ciliary body. This swollen part is the ciliary body. This ciliary body has muscles into it which are known as the ciliary muscles. If you're going to find out ciliary body somewhere, it also means almost same. The ciliary body will have muscles into it which are known as the ciliary muscles. Okay, with the ciliary muscles, some of the ligaments are attached. These are green here. These are the suspensory ligaments. These are suspensory ligaments. Ligaments are actually the connective tissues. I'm going to write here. Ligaments are the connective tissues which are connecting this lens to the ciliary muscles which are present inside the ciliary body. Ciliary body, they have ciliary muscles, and those muscles are actually connected to the lens with the help of the suspensory ligament, which is suspending the lens in the center of the eye. Okay, human eye is actually biconvex. You might be familiar, biconvex is the one which is curved from both the sides, and here you can see it is curved from both the ends. यहाँ से भी curve है, यहाँ से भी curve है. So natural lens or human lens is the biconvex lens which is transparent. It is suspended in the center with the help of the suspensory ligaments. This is about the second layer. ठीक है, मैं दोबारा बेटा रिवाइज कर देती हूँ. जो first layer है, that is the sclera, which is fibrous, white, tough, that protects the eye, and at front it forms the cornea, which is transparent because cornea has to transmit light, so that's why it is transparent. Second layer is known as the choroid. Choroid has blood vessels into it, or it is of dark color because of the pigments. Some of the pigments might be present into this. This choroid has blood vessels, so it supplies oxygen and nutrients to the cells of the eye. At front, this choroid bends and forms two bands which are known as the iris. Okay, iris, these are the two bands which are formed from the bending of the choroid layer, which is the second layer, and this results in the formation of a hole in the center of the eye, which is known as the pupil. Okay, pupil is the hole, so it will also allow light to pass through it. Exactly to the opposite of the pupil, there is biconvex lens present that is suspended into the eye or into the hollow part of the eye with the help of some connective tissues which are known as the suspensory ligaments. These suspensory ligaments are connecting the lens to the ciliary muscles which are present into the ciliary body, and ciliary body is also formed from the second layer of the eye, which is the choroid. ठीक है, यहाँ तक बेटा कोई इश्यू?
सेकेंड लेयर एक बार दोबारा रिपीट करें।
अच्छा ठीक है, फर्स्ट मैंने आपको बताया था सेकेंड लेयर जो है बेटा दैट इज नोन एज द क्रोइड. शुड आई रेज ऑल दिस? ठीक है, बिकॉज आई एम थिंकिंग टू सेंड यू द पीडीएफ एज इट इज इन दिस फॉर्म सो दैट इफ समथिंग इज मिसिंग तो आप वहाँ पीडीएफ से या रिटर्न मटेरियल से आप हेल्प ले लें. अच्छा, ये जो बेटा सेकेंड लेयर है, हियर यू कैन सी, लेट मी यूज हाईलाइटर राइट नाउ. अच्छा, ये बेटा देखें, दिस इज द सेकेंड लेयर विच इज ड्रॉन रेड और ब्लैक, सॉरी ब्लैक है, यहाँ पर आपको जो ब्लैक नजर आ रही है दिस इज द क्रोइड है. क्रोइड बेटा एट फ्रंट जो है ये बेंड करके आयरिस बनाती है. दीज आर द आयरिस, राइट, दिस बेंट पार्ट्स आर द आयरिस. अच्छा, अब आयरिस जो है, आयरिस की वजह से देर इज द होल फॉर्म्ड इन द सेंटर, दैट होल इज नोन एज द pupil. Pupil is the hole, so it will allow light to pass through it, which will be focused onto the lens. फिर लेंस से वो लाइट पीछे जाएगी. जो लेंस है, ह्यूमन आई का जो बेटा लेंस है दैट इज बाय कन्वेक्स. आप देखें कि इस साइड से भी कन्वेक्स है, इस साइड से भी कन्वेक्स है, सो दैट्स व्हाई इट्स नोन एज द बाय कन्वेक्स लेंस, एंड दैट इज सस्पेंडेड इनटू द आई with the help of the suspensory ligaments. These are the suspensory ligaments which are shown green here. ठीक है, these suspensory ligaments are connecting these eyes or suspending these eyes, connecting these eyes to the ciliary muscles. These are the type of the muscles which are present into the ciliary body. ये वाला जो part है red, ठीक है, this one it's not being highlighted here. This part is the ciliary body, and inside the ciliary body there are muscles present which are the ciliary muscles, and this lens is attached with these muscles with the help of these ligaments. ठीक है, सिंपल ही है, इनके साथ ये अटैच होता है. अच्छा, सेकेंड लेयर में मैंने आपको बताया देर आर ब्लड वेसल्स प्रेजेंट, एंड these blood vessels have nutrients and oxygen which is provided to the cells of the eyes, because eye cells are living, so they also need oxygen and nutrients for different purposes. ठीक है, सेकेंड लेयर हो गई. अब इसके अलावा थर्ड लेयर आप देखें, लेंस भी हमने कर लिया. जो थर्ड लेयर है दैट इज नोन एज द रेटिना. ऑल दिस मटेरियल इज आल्सो रिटन हियर. ठीक है, यू कैन टेक हेल्प फ्रॉम दिस मटेरियल. आई विल सेंड यू इट्स पीडीएफ आफ्टरवर्ड्स. अच्छा, ये जो बेटा थर्ड लेयर है इनर मोस्ट विच इज शोन हियर, ठीक है, रेड से भी आगे, क्योंकि रेड का तो दे आर फॉर्म्ड द ciliary body. इसे आप आगे देखें, दिस इज नोन एज द रेटिना विच इज द इनर मोस्ट लेयर ऑफ द आई. रेटिना हैज फोटोसेंसिटिव सेल्स, right? Retina, okay, this is the retina. It is the innermost layer and it has photosensitive cells. यहाँ पे बेटा आपने गौर से देखना है. It has two types of cells which are the photosensitive cells. They are known as the photosensitive cells because they are sensitive to light. That's why these are the photosensitive cells. One are rods and other are cones. ठीक है, इसमें बेटा टू टाइप्स के हैं. ये जो मैंने यहाँ पर थर्ड लेयर ड्रॉ की, थर्ड लेयर है विच इज राइट रेटिना. हेयर इज इट्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइट रेड इन कलर. बिल्कुल जो इनर मोस्ट होती है दैट इज द रेटिना. रेटिना के अंदर क्या होता है, देर आर बेटा फोटोसेंसिटिव सेल्स. एक रोड्स हैं और एक कोन है. ठीक है, रोड्स जो हैं दे आर सेंसिटिव टू डिम लाइट. रोड्स आर सेंसिटिव टू डिम लाइट और ये रोड्स एक्टिवेट होते हैं एट नाइट or when there is low intensity of light. दिन में भी when we enter into a dark room, तो आपने देखा होगा कि it takes some time for our eyes to see the things. ठीक है, उस वक्त क्या होते हैं, हमारे जो roads हैं into the eyes, they are activated and it takes some time. When they are activated, then we are able to see the things in dark. इतनी clear image नहीं होता उन objects का, but still to some extent we can see. जितना भी हमें नजर आ रहा है, that is because of roads. अगर roads की quantity ज्यादा हो, like it's in owl, we can also then see the things in dark because they have large amount of roads. अच्छा, dim light में ये activate होते हैं. अब दिन when we enter into the dark, what happens? It takes some time to see the things. अब उस time में क्या होता है? There is a pigment present into the roads which is known as the rhodopsin. ठीक है, इसको हम visual purple भी बोलते हैं. This is synthesized in the presence of vitamin A. When we enter into the dark room, तो हमारा क्या होता है? Rhodopsin is actually synthesized. Rhodopsin जो है बेटा वो क्या होता है? वो सिंथेसाइज होता है इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ विटामिन ए, और इसको सिंथेसाइज होने में थोड़ा सा टाइम लगता है, या फ्यू सेकंड्स आप कह लें, फ्यू मिनट्स लगते हैं, विच आर टेकन अप बाय द आईज टू सी द थिंग्स इन डार्क. ठीक है, हमें एक 2 मिनट जो चीजों को देखने में लगते हैं, दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द सिंथेसिस ऑफ रोडोप्सिन विच इज प्रेजेंट इनटू द आईज, और रोडोप्सिन सिंथेसाइज होता है इन द प्रेजेंस ऑफ विटामिन ए. इफ देयर इज डेफिशिएंसी ऑफ विटामिन ए into our eyes, तो rhodopsin जो है ये बेटा synthesize नहीं होगा. ठीक है, rhodopsin synthesize नहीं होगा तो we will not be able to see in the dark, and it leads to a disease which is known as the night blindness. Night blindness, we're not able to see in the dark or at night. This is because of the deficiency of vitamin A. Rhodopsin is not synthesized, which is used to see the things in the dark, so we are not able to see the things. Okay, ये तो हमारे पास roads हो गए. इसके अलावा there are also, yes, what happens in the bright light, this whole rhodopsin is actually bleached. ठीक है, इसलिए जो है और dim light में ये synthesize होता है. Cones are sensitive to bright light and color vision. Like all the colors are, okay, cones are, these are also photosensitive cells, and these are sensitive to the bright light, means at day we are able to see because of the cones, and at night we are able to see because of the roads. And these are also responsible for the color vision. There are 3 types of the cones present into an eye, and each one is responsible for one of the 3 primary colors. For red there is different cone, for blue there is different, for green there is different. We are able to see all the colors just because of these 3 cones. If there is defect in any of the one color, we will not be able to see that particular color or the colors which are formed by combining that color. ठीक है, colors आपने अगर देखे हो तो we combine 2 colors and some other color is formed. There are some primary colors which cannot be formed, but secondary colors जो है they can be formed by mixing those primary colors. If there is defect in the primary color, then it's understood that some of the secondary colors will also not be formed. ठीक है, secondary नहीं बनेंगे तो हमें वो वाले colors नजर नहीं आएंगे. अच्छा, you have seen बेटा Facebook appears to be blue. Do you have any idea that the person who made this Facebook page of this website, he was a color blind man. ठीक है, color blind था. He was able to see only the blue color. He was not able to see all the other colors. So everything appeared to be him as blue. ये अच्छा, इसमें भी बेटा जो cones हैं, they also work in the same manner as the roads work. There is also one of the pigment that is synthesized in the presence of sunlight, so we are able to see in the bright light. ठीक है, अच्छा, road और cone हो गए. Let's move back to the picture again. ठीक है, थर्ड लेयर है. थर्ड लेयर मैं दोबारा रिपीट कर देती हूँ. That's known as the retina, and retina has photosensitive cells. There are 2 types of photosensitive cells. One are rods, other are cones. Roads are sensitive to dim light and cones are responsible for bright light and color vision. Right, roads to a better there is it is activated in the dim light. It synthesizes a pigment that is rhodopsin, and rhodopsin is synthesized in the dark in the presence of vitamin A. When this rhodopsin is synthesized into the road, then we are able to see in dim light, and it takes some time when we enter from bright light into the dim light फॉर दिस रिडॉप्सिन टू बी सेंथिसाइज्ड. ठीक है, उसके बाद आप देखिए हमें जो लाइट सी चीजें नजर आ रही होती हैं, दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रिडॉप्सिन. If there is deficiency of vitamin A or rhodopsin is not synthesized because of any reason, that then we are not able to see in the dark or at night, that leads to a disease which is known as the night blindness. ठीक है, and during day what happens, this rhodopsin is completely bleached. Okay, right. This was about the retina, rods and cones. अच्छा, next जो है बेटा, next is you can see at the opposite end, exactly to the opposite of. Okay, here you can see that exactly to the opposite of the lens, there is fova present. That is also known as the macula fova. ठीक है, and macula fova or fova has large number of cones present. ठीक है, there are no rods. Sometimes in worksheets you will have to answer what is fova. Fova actually have large number of cones present. They do not have rods. This is also the part of the retina which is exactly opposite to the lens, and fova has more cones, so it is responsible for the vision in the bright light. It has more cones. It has no rods. Also remember, no rods. Only cones are present. So it is the point where the sharpest image is formed. So that's why it is exactly opposite to the lens. And at this point, all the light rays are converged. Or at this point, all the light rays need to form the sharpest image. And sharp image is formed because it has more cones. Okay. And you can see that here is another dot which is at the point where optic nerves are entering the eye. This red one, this is the optic nerve. Yes, this red, this complete one is the optic nerve, right? This is the point from where the optic nerves are entering into the eye or leaving the eye. Optic nerves will carry a message to the brain, and then brain will let you know or form the image according to the rays which are entering into the eyes. Right, this optic nerve, the point at a point from where optic nerves entered into the eye, there is a point. This is known as the blind spot. You can see here. This is the optic disc area, or this is the blind spot. This is the blind spot, which is exactly at the point from where optic nerves enter or leave the eye. This is the blind spot. And remember, blind spot is the point where no rods and cones are present. Right? Or you can say photosensitive cells are absent at blind spot. It means that no image is formed. No image is formed at blind spot, because from this point, messages or nerve impulses have to leave the eye, or they have to move to the brain for the formation of the image. So there is no need of rods and cones here or for the formation of the image at this point.